Welcome back to Faders Up with Trovarsi. I am your host, Trovarsi. If you haven't been here before, welcome. This is a show where we have a performer come on. We talk about the intricacies and the complexities of their live setups, how they pick those live setups, and all the nuances that go with live performing. And today we have a special guest. My special guest is BboyTech, aka Corry Banks, also the founder and CEO of Modbap Modular. So we have a lot to talk about. Real quick, I just want to tell you a little bit of backstory about Corry. He is from Chicago. He was introduced to hip hop in Chicago. He did some MC. He released a lot of material actually with groups as well as solo. Fast forward to his synth career, and as you all, I'm sure, as I know as well, on this from synth we move into modular, and then the rest is history. But we're going to get into that. But without further ado, let's welcome BboyTech.
Yo, what's going on? I actually want to meet this guy. Jeez.
This guy is fantastic.
It's good to be here. It's a dope show.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Thanks for having me. It's really dope to be here.
Well, all right. So I just want to say welcome to all of those in the chat. If you have questions, get them prepared. Get ready to drop them in the chat. Right now, we're going to watch Corry's performance, and then we can drill him and pepper him with as many questions as we like. Right, Corry? Right, BboyTech?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Was that it?
That was it.
Yeah. I wasn't. I was like, I saw your hand, and then I thought you were gonna like drop another beat. I was like, was that?
Word up. Yeah, that was it. I just kind of let it ride out like that.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
you're the
kind of
man
fell
of
into a
arts.
groove a little bit.
What happened? I'm sorry.
I just kind of fell into a groove a little bit and just kind of kept it there and played around with the dynamics of the groove.
I like it. I could tell that you were doing something a little different too,
Hmm.
and because I know you're a man of arps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. But I like that, like you were really utilizing the effect and really showing off the performer. It sounded really nice.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
it had like a really nice flow, the reverbs, the delays that were happening. Yeah, I thought it was pretty sick.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to, just trying to kind of lay into the performer. And this little setup, I'm literally setting up this little bitty skiff that I've been kind of changing things out, changing things in, and I'm setting it up so that I could use it as a good demo or something that kind of showcases performer. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
yeah, I just kind of laid into that, and then I got a newer module in there besides the performer, but that newer module I'm getting to know. So I just kind of twisted knobs till something happened, and then just kind of rolled with it and wrung it dry a little bit.
Nice. No, I thought it sounded great. I liked it. Was a very nice groove to it.
Word.
One
Thank
thing
you.
one thing I did notice too is that you were using the MPC. So
Mhm.
like let's talk about your setup. Do you mind like kind of just
Yeah. Let me see.
kind of giving like a little walkthrough, like just what show us which modules you had in? Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just move over a little bit. So yeah, I have this 84 HP skiff, and from this side, the left side, I have let's see what I have. Shuttle control. Then I have Erica Sense MIDI to CV. And I have Afro Rack and Ali Modular and the OR switch. And then I have a random there. And then the module I was speaking of that's new for me is marbles, this kind of Pico marbles here. I've never used marbles, so just got it like 2 days ago, and kind of learning a little bit about it. Excuse me. And so the reason I have marbles in there, very sorry about that. So the reason I have marbles in there is because marbles has the gates, and it has those rhythms and those fiery gates that are on one side, but on the other side, you can kind of work out melodies and do art kind of stuff, and it's kind of cool how you can manipulate the melodies and you still got a lot of modulation in there. So I figured in this small setup, it would be dope to have that there. What I'm using for my VCO, that'll be driving, and that was driving for this, is the ensemble oscillator by 4MS. And then I have one of my favorite filters that's going into stereo into the QPAS. And
Yeah.
so I heard a couple of people say that filter is singing.
I
So
love the Q pass. Yeah.
it's beautiful. It really is. It's one
Yeah.
of the dopest filters out there, for real, for real. And so sometimes what I've been doing is actually having say the left side come out of high pass and the other side come out of low pass, but you also have the smile pass there. But I kind of mix it up a little bit. And then obviously the performer at the end of the chain. So we got Q pass going into their stereo, and then I got a stereo coming out. and my MPC here is going into the SP404. So that's drums and bass going into the 404. So I can have separate stutter controls for, the melodic side and the drum side.
Okay. Okay. So that's why you were saying, like, I saw in the chat, I think and you'd mentioned before in one of your shows that once you get the second performer, then the SP404, you're going to pull that out of your setup. So
Yeah.
so you're okay.
That's exactly why. Hold on, I want to show you. Which, if you all have seen any of the videos for the performer, I have this little guy right here, this little case, this Form S case.
Okay, let's
So,
see on that.
yeah, so basically what I'm going to do is my second performer is going to be in this case, and it'll be on the side here. And I'm even thinking about getting a little larger case so I can have a crossfader. He put his full form reverb. So yeah, this is gonna be my control case basically with the second performer. So most times that I usually have the force as groove box, right? So this will kind of be on the side. So what I'll have is like a performer for my melodic stuff coming out of Eurorack. That stuff will be going into my force, because I usually monitor through the force, and then on the force you actually have performance effects as well, but then I'll have the main output of everything going through a performer at the end of the chain, in this case. Okay. And so so this is just me kind of trying out a little bit something new, just kind of making grooves and see what comes of it. And yeah, I've been leaning a lot on the performer because it just sounds good. Everything on it sounds good. Not because I made it, but because it just does.
It sounds really good. It does.
No doubt. No doubt. So yeah, that's the setup.
Nice. It's nice to see this setup and how it's evolved, and then now adding your new module because, well, you and I, we talk a lot about setups, and, before the whole pandemic and all that stuff, we were planning on traveling, and having a small setup was very important. And I know that you were using this force at the time. Do you think that, because I noticed that you're using this case here, have you considered going back to the palette, and if so, why not?
So I don't know yet. So my palette actually has the ER301, the emblematic crossfader, and the performer in it, and it's a perfect little setup. I swear to goodness, it's such a great setup to use with the force. So I don't know just yet. I've set this up to be more of a demo skiff, the one we're using right now, but it's who knows. I just don't know just yet, but I kind of like this little setup that I have going on here. And as soon as I learn more about marbles, I think it's going to be a really powerful setup. So I may just rock with it like this.
Well, it sounds really good.
Thanks. And I think it works well. Well, firstly, the wood case looks nice with the rescue MPC, as Frey calls it. And so
shout out to Corry cases on that.
Yeah, shout out to Corry cases. And so I just kind of think they work well together. It's I think what it is, it's an inspiring little setup. You know what I mean? So yeah. And it's allowed me to kind of show off performer too. So who knows? I think when it comes time to travel though, that'll be a different consideration because I will want something that travels well. And I have a case for my force, and been thinking about what kind of case I might want when we can actually start going and traveling and doing stuff again. But yeah, that's definitely the setup for now. And it changes, it morphs, like you mentioned, it kind of morphs over time. So
I like it. I mean, I do understand a morphing case, I'll tell you that.
No doubt.
I feel like mine's always changing as well. But I think that I like the setup. I'd like to continue to see what else you do with it.
Yeah. Who knows? It's when it comes to evolving, you just never know what might happen. and then too, um, I've had the performer in my another case for so long, the
Mm.
entire summer, a little bit before that. And so I've been kind of almost working from two setups. You know what I mean? Because I share so much online that there's some stuff that obviously I'm not going to show and I couldn't show the performer. So I've kind of been working with like two different setups and kind of bouncing around. And so then when it came time to set this up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do some of these things that I've been kind of experimenting with a little bit. So yeah, it's pretty much everything that anybody that follows me on Instagram at BboyTechReport, everything that you've heard over the summer has had the performer on it.
Like low key, like
Yeah.
incognito off to the side. Like
Nope.
now it doesn't have to be disjointed. You can now like start merging everything back together. Like I
Exactly.
understand that though.
Yep. Exactly.
I know now I can show it. Like every time I was like doing stuff, I was like looking around, like d-
Yeah,
well,
just
what
trying to
you
make sure
said,
it's not a shot.
don't make sure it's not in the shot.
Yeah, yeah. That's what's up.
But I'm yeah, like, well, let's talk about the performer now. I mean, I kind of have like some questions that I want to talk. Well,
We
let's
can we can go we can pause that and go to a different thing if you want. It's
Yeah,
cool.
I would, like, I wanna come circle back, but I think, like, just for the sake of our viewers, and I just wanna again say thank you for tuning into the show, and welcome back to those of you who've watched the others. We appreciate you tuning in, and those of you who probably know B-Boy Tech, um, as he has the B People the podcast, the B-Boy Tech Report show, and a lot of that stems around hip hop and merging technical with modular. But I want to go back for just a few
Okay.
minutes to give some people a bit of your backstory.
Okay.
Like, so
Cool.
why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Growing up in Chicago, getting into hip hop.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm originally from Chicago. I've been here since '05 in LA, '05, '06 or whatever it is. Coming up to Chicago I find that there's parallels between places like LA, New York, and Chicago or Detroit and all those places. Now the thing about coming up in Chicago is because one is rough and tumble and it is what it is, but if you got talent, people look out for you in a different way where it's like,
Mm, mhm.
nah, leave him alone, or nah, shorty, you can't be around here right now, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the little cat that raps, you know what I mean? So I came up as an MC. As a matter of fact, in my neighborhood, I was one of the first dudes to be rapping, and that's on the west side of Chicago, right off Chicago Avenue, and in a certain area called Lawndale. And at
Okay.
least in my friend group and around that area, like I was such a nerd about it. I used to have this notebook that I would literally write all my raps and sometimes type them up, and I would be outside with a notebook and a backpack. And then, when we were chilling on porches, I would break my little notebook out and start
Right.
spitting rhymes. And from that, it inspired some of the other people in the crew or in my friend group to start spitting rhymes and doing different stuff like that. But yeah, that kind of started my journey in hip hop. I was enamored by hip hop. There was nothing else like every record. I'm saying falling asleep with antenna in the radio, college radio station, tape on record, memorize every line. And it was the coolest thing I had ever experienced. And I knew that that's what was up for me. So, as time went on, ended up in a group, and we got a little bit of tension on the Chicago hip hop scene. It was dope to be a part of Chicago hip hop scene in the '90s,
Yeah.
and without realizing it, there's this duality that I experienced in Chicago around that time because uh, you know
Mm,
house music and
mm,
in Detroit is techno and this kind of stuff, this
yeah.
electronic music and then disco, older soul and disco when you go to places like the Warehouse. So we grew up going to house parties and stuff like that. And then, but my preference was always hip hop.
Always hip hop.
You know what I mean? But if you go into a party in Chicago in the '90s, it's house music.
Yeah, I did a lot of partying in Chicago in the '90s, and it
Yeah,
was
you know what I mean?
house music. So
Yeah. So there was this duality all the time. And just but then there was this thing where people wanted to try to blend house music and hip hop, and it was hip house, and I hated every part of that. To me, you know, I won't get into it, but that just wasn't my deal. You know what I mean? But
right. You're like, there's house music and then there's
and it's
hip
hip hop.
right?
There ain't no
Right,
match together. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, through that, I met a couple guys, and you know, my best friend and I, he was kind of like the producer DJ type, and he was aspiring to do that stuff. And I'm, you know, as an MC, and I linked up with another MC, and we became a group called Sack Fly. And we did a lot of shows in Chicago, and we opened for a lot of people. It was pretty dope. I mean, we did Soldier Spill, well, the parking lot, but that was still Soldier Spill
hey, yeah.
at the Pan African Fest, and you know, we did shows at NAACP and
Wow.
Rainbow Coalition, and we were
Yeah.
doing shows at, you know, places people from Chicago know, Red Dogs, and all these different places. Like, I mean, if it was hot, we were there. That was it. We were part of that scene. You know, early on.
Do you have any recordings still? I mean, no, you know,
Yeah.
times are different now. Like you can record anything anywhere, but have you had an opportunity to, you know, save a lot of that stuff? Or I know you said you had to write down. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got tapes full of that. I got ADATs still full of that stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was cool to do that, and we were fortunate. We being my DJ / best friend, may as well call him my brother, because we met when we were younger than 10. You know what I mean?
You guys grew up together, and
yeah. And then we hooked up with another guy, and he was another MC, and it was like an instant rap, like melding of MCs. And you know, we learned to freestyle together. We loved hitting the streets, getting in ciphers, and being in clubs, and open up. If you come to town, we were opening up for you. That's, you know, just that kind of thing. It was a vibe. We were fortunate enough to sign a production and management deal early on. I was going to Columbia College Chicago, which is kind of like the Fame of Chicago, like this TV show. You know what I mean? It's an art college. And so you got people studying everything from interior design to piano and to dance to art and multimedia to, you know, music management. And that's where I met some of my lifelong friends in like music management and that kind of stuff. But I stopped going there because we were signed to a production deal and trying to get a record deal in the 90s. And I was like, I don't want to learn this stuff. I'm actually in a real studio, son. I know this stuff. We ain't recording in nobody's closet. That's a real studio. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, it was just kind of one of those things. But I'll tell you, throughout all of that, all of the stuff that I learned and all of the stuff that I was passionate about, kind of, you don't realize as you walk in this path, it's all a path to put you where you're supposed to go. You know what I mean? Like learning different things about music production from dope music producers. You know what I mean? And well, it became a time too that it was just kind of like, yo, we have dope stuff and it's sought after. These record deals ain't quite coming. The management, I feel like looking back, we should have gotten out of Chicago, which is, if you think about it, people like Common and Kanye, they went and they moved to New York to really put the pedal to the metal. We should have done something like that. But I have no regrets though. So ultimately, you know what happened is we were broke and our manager was not. And I I was like, yo,
yeah, you're like, what happened?
man got on 3 pair of socks. You know how you used to do that in the 90s? You have Timberlands and different color socks. Right? Man got on 3 pair of socks. Yeah, so you could see the color fade. You know what I mean? And then how you used to wear like a polo and a button-down shirt that's open plus a jacket. That was very 90s. You used
all the collars.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, bro, my man got on 3 pair of socks and several shirts, and we just shared a veggie Subway sandwich.
You're like, something's got to change.
Something's got to change. And so, you know, this may sound weird, but I decided to take up a trade. And my thought was, yo, it's 98, 97. that my man is working on an Amiga. I think that's what it was called in the studio. They would sequencer was, I think, an Amiga or an Atari. I don't know what it is because I wasn't super techie back then. But I told him, I was like, listen, they're gonna need somebody to fix this stuff. I feel like people are going to start having more and more computers in their studios. Now, that may sound like duh right now, but I'm trying to tell people that was 25 years ago, when I'm sitting there thinking like, this is about to escalate quickly. You know what I'm saying? Yep. They've discontinued SP1200s out here. They have you know what I mean? They're constantly making new MPCs, but then I'm starting to see computers start to creep into the music. So I decided I was going to go and take up a trade. I said, listen, we ain't going to stop doing what we're doing, but I'm about to go to DeVry. I'm gonna learn some tech stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, at that point, I went and that was the beginning of the end of that kind of era in my life. Like, because little did I know, starting to take up get into other things, and I've always been kind of tinkery and that kind of way. So I realized like I was starting to learn. That's when I went to school for my electronics degree.
Got you. Okay.
And my thought was learn electronics because they didn't have a computer degree just yet. It came shortly thereafter. And I figured learn electronics and that could be my end to computer technology. Right. And so it really was, because then I ended up becoming a computer tech and got the degree in electronics, and I was starting to perform less and less, but I never stopped rapping. So that little wane in time, the production company I was with fell apart, and it fell apart in fantastic fashion. There was a lot of, you ever know when you're with a group of people, there's several groups in this production company, and there's several owners, and lots of things transpired. And there was a lot of speculation and thought and who's going with who, and you know what I mean? This kind of stuff. It was like really
starting to divide, kind of.
Like,
kind of separating.
Yes, people separating and choosing sides and trying to be impartial, and it was just crazy stuff. And at the same time, I was learning this new trade and this new technology. And so, after that thing folded, we continued to go on, but it was like it became a struggle to get dope music. You know what I mean? And my man got it
through because of what was happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, because we separated from the guys who were the actual producers who were producing us. And my man who was our DJ was just kind of getting that skill set on. You know what I mean? And so he started to produce a little more. He had an MPC 2000 at the time.
Okay.
And but my rap partner, life comes at you fast, you know what I'm saying? So we found that we were starting to drift apart too. So it is what it is. And all I knew is I couldn't find beats, and I got tired of traipsing all over Chicago trying to link up with producers. Producers are funny folks, man. Like I could cipher with anybody. You know what I mean? Like, just point there was nothing you could tell me throughout my entire 20s and part of my 30s that I wouldn't be a famous rapper. But my passions changed once I realized, like, yo, I need beats. So I figured I would start making my own beats. My man had taught me a little something, and producers is weird cats. And like, what I'm saying is, it's tough to find synergy and chemistry with folks when there's ego and weird stuff happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I continued to perform and stuff and do that kind of stuff. But while I was getting my degree in electronics, I also started producing. And while I was getting that degree, I started working in IT. So then I had money to go get equipment.
You could start buying gear and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I bought my first 2000 XL, which obviously that's why I went so hard about restoring this 2000 XL, because that was my first piece of gear.
Right. So there's like nostalgia.
Yeah, it really is. And so, through all of that, I started producing, and I really got into it. And over the years, it took 10 years or so before I started to not really care as much about the rapping. You know what I mean? It was just kind of one of those things. I went into beat making as a necessity and fell in love more so than I thought I could fall in love. And then that also, as technology grew and I'm working in IT, it's just kind of like these two worlds collided. You know what I mean?
No, I
And
get it. I get it.
yeah, so that's kind of that journey of how it all kind of came about to me going from MC and between there too, I was also in another couple groups and we put out. I'm looking on the wall right here because I have the CDs on the wall. There's 4 of them that we put out in the early 2000s. There was a point when we were licensing our music. We would go to Cannes, France, and license our music in this sort of music licensing festival. We made a lot of connects and we were like, yo, can you believe they bought that album from us for thousands of dollars? And then they there was a company that licensed one of our albums to be sold in the UK. They bought exclusive rights basically to sell our album in the UK and Ireland. And upfront money and then royalties and stuff. And we parlayed that, and that was us owning our own record label and making things happen that way. And then I put out a couple solo albums. I don't remember. Oh, Storybook Adventure and Pathways. Pathways is a dope album, yo. As a matter of fact,
Are they available? They're available now, still online now, or
yeah, you can still get them. I'm going to tell you, as an artist, as a MC, my name is Fasha Ra, and so I'm going to put what you should go out and look for because it's a dope album. This album is the comment that I just put up there. Fasha Ra is.
Did you put it in the chat, or do you want us to
in the chat? Yeah, you could throw it up there. There it is. So Pathways is a really dope album. It's out on the Beat Monsters label. Okay. That album has me producing. I produced maybe 11 joints on there. Illmind produced a joint on there. My man Noble Drew, who I owned the record label with, produced a couple joints on there. I have a song with Sadat X on there. From Brand Nubian. And then there's another Beat Monster album where I had a song with Prince Poetry from I hate that it's slipping my mind. Sorry about Organized Confusion, pardon me. So Prince Poetry from Organized Confusion is on like one of the Beat People albums. And we just put out some dope underground stuff, man. And it was
nice.
Good stuff.
I love hearing this about you and being able to share it with everybody in the chat here, Corry or BboyTech. Sorry, I know you were like brother and sister. So
that's all good. I don't care what you call
our names, but yeah, no, it's great to be able to share because like I said, I'm sure that a lot of people that may be watching this chat may know you through the recent through your recent accomplishments.
Yeah.
Modbap, which we're going to get into that in just a moment. Moving into having this your first module come out. So I'm really thankful and grateful that you are here to share your story. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me to talk about this stuff. Nobody ever, this is kind of those things that people don't really, they only see the current.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I've lived several different existences in this hip hop life. You know what I mean?
I get it. Yeah. That's why, like, especially like now, you starting your modular company and being the first Black owned modular company. And I feel that it's also important to put this and all tie this together, your history, and kind of unfold the story. And give a little backstory to what brings us to current times and what you're doing today. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. So at this point you had released albums. Are you living in California at this time, or you're now more into production? You've moved into production with your career, and you're kind of dual careering it, which
definitely.
I understand that completely. I've been down that road myself. So
dual career, and this is a weird and funny thing because I can remember times. Well, so in 2005, I moved from Chicago to LA.
Got it. Okay.
That's also around the time we started licensing records internationally to be sold other places. And so, 05, 06, 07, I think we were going back and forth between Cannes, France at festival time, and you know, LA. And my partner in the record label still lived in Chicago, who still lives in Chicago. And so yeah, we did that stuff. It was a sweet little underground run. It lasted years, and it got to a point, you know, where I was doing that living that duality. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
working, literally working, doing IT management and IT technology stuff in the daytime and performing at night, either with my band that I put together when I first moved out here or with my DJ, depending on the setup. So we with my band and my DJ, we perform at places like the Airliner and those kinds of places.
I've performed at the Airliner myself.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you performed in LA or you ain't performed at the Airliner, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, yeah. I sang at the Airliner. That was my other lifetime ago. I understand the whole road of, you know, you you saying rapping, MC, moving into production because I
Mhm.
sang, I was a singer. I sang in bands and did all this sort of stuff. And as I moved into production, it sort of
It fell away.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, some of the best times though for me were making solo albums, because of that
Mm,
idea of creating something. I'm passionate about creating things, I think is really what it comes down to. I feel like
mhm.
as a creative, whatever you find yourself super focused on at the time, that creating process is what lifts me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, the idea of creating an album, that Pathways album, I think is one of my best accomplishments on the as far as producing and the MC side of things. Um,
Nice.
Creating in general. So what I found is that writing and producing, it's a hell of a, and then I mixed the album. So it's like I'm, you know, the whole thing. And that
Right.
process was exhilarating. But you know, life happens. And then I started realizing there was certain career goals I wanted to hit on the technology side, on that other side of life. Now here's a weird thing. I would do shows at night. I can remember a show I did and I got off stage and I was selling CDs and I was signing autographs. Um, and then I had to get up. That was a Thursday night, and I had to get up in the morning to go to work and move and shuffle around computers and do project management stuff.
Right.
And it was the most ridiculous thing. I was I was telling my boss because she was really cool. I was like, "Yo, I was signing autographs last night, yo."
Right.
Yo, I'm not going to move that computer. I mean, we were
Right.
cool enough that we could joke and talk.
Right, right. But
You
it's
know what I
funny,
mean?
like, you're living these dual life, like, you have all this stuff happening at your nightlife, and then you show up at work, and you're like,
Yeah, and then I put the, button down
head
and
down. Yep, yeah.
khakis, and I'm IT manager at a law firm. You know what I mean? And two, here's could it be any more different? The stereotypes of those two are just ridiculous. The stereotype of an IT guy working in a law firm is super Poindexter, straight lace, and the
Yeah.
stereotype of an MC doing shows at night in hip hop clubs with your DJ is like almost criminal in some people's eyes. You know what I mean? So, but that's who I am. That you know what I mean?
I do, I do.
Released that album and it did sold out shows going back to Chicago. Like overwhelming. Like yo, I didn't realize as many people would show up. It's that kind of. It was just a duality that was just kind of crazy. Uh,
Right.
I
It's
end up
funny,
making some decisions about that though. I wanted to start hitting some certain goals for the way of life that I wanted to have. And me and my wife talked about it. So I then elevated on my education and started, went back and finished my bachelor's degree. And then I got my master's degree
Mm,
and all of that stuff. Then I started kind of pulling away with doing all that study and I didn't write raps as much.
got it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when things really snowballed on the music production side though. You know what I mean? Through
Right.
those years, I watched, the rapping part kind of fall away, but it doesn't take as long to make beats as it does to write and be consistent and make good songs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so that became my creative outlet, just making beats and producing and stuff. And
So that was like the big transition then, and then you started moving into gear and synthesizers.
Mhm.
using it?
Oh, I made a big there was it always seems like, sometimes you can look back and be like, how did I get here? But I know exactly the moments. Like I literally woke up thinking, I'm gonna have to let go of this record company that I'm half owner with. I'm gonna have to let go of this thing and that thing. And I had some conversations with some business partners, and some of them went really well, some of them didn't go so well.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I have friends that I'm not as close with as I used to be, but we made some great memories together. Life is cyclical that way. Uh,
Right.
so it is what it is. But I had to literally, like somebody just said, build and destroy. It's true. You have to sometimes destroy to build. And
Mhm.
so I started clearing myself of things that I felt like, were uh, pressurizing my situation. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And through that, I started producing more and getting much more into the music and getting much more into synthesizers and much more into beat making. And, in my work life, I was kind of going, soaring and taking on more responsibility, but then the creative process of beat making and all this stuff around here became that outlet. And so I would even put out instrumental albums and do that kind of stuff. And it kind of just snowballed into this world where I am now.
Nice. Yeah, especially when you're working in that kind of you need that creative outlet.
Hmm. You do. You
Yeah.
do, because especially when you're working in a really straight laced, buttoned up sort of environment,
Hmm.
you
Hey, I
can't.
come from a law background too, so I think
So you
definitely
know
we'll
it,
talk
right?
about that. We don't
Yeah.
talk about it as much, ironically, which I think we both appreciate that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because
Just enough that we are like,
here's what a coworker told me once back in the day when I was kind of like I was stressing about something at work, and he's a coworker that literally sat next to me in a cubicle, and he was like, "Yo, stop! You gotta stop. This is work. This ain't your real life." Like your real life is playing with your band and making music and making records. This ain't your real life. You shouldn't care this much. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's one of those things. It kind of helped me um, figure out that I needed to elevate and find some urgency in my from what I was passionate about. You know what I mean? And that is what brought me to B-Boy Tech Report in 2012. I set up one weekend and built B-Boy Tech Report, kind of under the pretense that it was a senior project or a project of some sort for a class in my master's degree. Um,
I remember
and
you telling me about that. Hmm.
yeah, it really wasn't supposed to be something that I really built. It was supposed to be a plan. It was a project management course. It was supposed to be just a project management plan to build something, a business. And so I was like, yo, I'm either going to do a t-shirt business or this here blog thing. But then I started kind of writing down and I started doing the blog. And then, because I have the skill set, I was like, I'm just going to build it. And so
Right.
that weekend I built it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and then I started writing and blogging on it. And around that time, it became a situation where people were coming to me and be like, "Yo, you've been doing this music for a long time." I customized an MPC, and I was very active in the MPC forums and in that whole sort of beat maker world that you
Got
know prior to Instagram and that kind of thing. So people would come to me and ask me for advice on things. And I basically started blogging like that. And I called it B-Boy Tech Report because my two worlds were colliding with that particular project that is bboytechreport.com. My tech self and my music self and hip hop,
And now you were
the
kind of
B-boy in me and the technical person in me and the music tech person in me kind of all just collided, and I created B-Boy Tech Report.
got you. And
Yeah.
that's the birth of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Nice. I just
And
want to check in with the real quick. Just check in with the people in the chat. Make sure drop your questions in the chat if you have questions for
questions. What's up?
B-Boy Tech. Now is the time. Get them in there. And just for those who are recently joining us, this is B-Boy Tech. founder and CEO of Modbap Modular, just came out with his first module, The Performer, and we're learning about him and his history, and moving into what he's currently doing today. Right? Yep. Sorry, I wanted to kind of just let everybody kind of know.
Yeah,
That
keep me on track. Don't let me wax poetic forever. Just do the thing.
No. So then let's talk about, okay, so you're writing BboyTechReport, you're making beats, and now you're in a place where is so sorry. I feel like I've known you for so long, but we've really only known each other for less than 2 years, which is
Yeah, it's crazy.
we talk almost every day, and we chat like all the like face to face. We chat, we hang out, like so. It just, I don't know. So
yeah, I mean,
we like
become one of my best friends, of
are
course.
we at Synthplex? That's where we met. Synthplex
Yeah.
last year, when we could actually hang out with people.
That's right.
It seems so long ago, I guess.
Yeah, Synthplex. That was dope. So we did that Modbap. It was, what was it? Birth of a Genre. It was a Modbap panel
Yes.
discussing what is Modbap and how did it kind of come about. And so we had initially, we were going to have a couple other people on the panel, but what we had on the panel was myself. We had Shiro, and we had Aaron from Afro Rack, and I brought in my guy Jay Story from what is the name of the company? I can't think of it. They make, anyway, I can't think of. Jay Story was there, and he moderated the panel.
So just so everyone knows, so it was you, Shiro, aka Voltage Controller, Aaron from Afro Rack, which founded Afro Rack in Chicago, correct? There was Ali from Ali Modular.
He was there, but he was in the audience. He wasn't on the panel.
Audience. Okay.
That was actually the first day we met in person.
That's right. That's when I met Ali too. Okay, so all right, sorry, just so everyone's kind of has all the players of the in mind now.
It was a great panel. We packed the room. The room was packed. I don't know if we expected that. It was a packed room. We had a lot of people in there, and everybody wanted to know, what is this Modbap situation? It was kind of, we were doing this thing, and we just kind of went through the history to that point, up to that point of Modbap, and I did a Modbap track breakdown. Who was supposed to be there was D Still. He was supposed to be there, and Ski Beats were both supposed to be there, but we didn't have the money to fly them in. They agreed they wanted to be there, but it was going to be a panel with all of us on it. But at any rate, that week was bananas. I mean, like you said, we met there. There was a lot of great people there, and I remember talking to Tenkai Tenkai from Zeta Ohm while I was there, and I was like, yo, I got a notebook full of modules, man. I'm thinking about doing my own modules. And he was like, do that shit.
You're like, all right, I will.
I was like, exactly. I was like, that's the plan. I'm gonna figure out this money situation though. Yeah, and he said, see this note on here? That's the way
so for those who don't know exactly what Modbap is, what is Modbap?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Modbap is a fusion of electronic synthesis, preferably Eurorack, and hip hop, boom bap, and almost any form of hip hop infused with Eurorack synthesis and modular synthesis. And it's just a fusion music, and to me, it's I mean, I could wax poetic more about that, but we are planning on doing a documentary. But yeah, that's basically Modbap, the fusion of those two sort of cultures and music together, modular boom bap.
And now let me ask you this now, because I've seen, what's I know trip hop, like what would you say the difference, if there's any, or how is it pretty fluid?
I think it's pretty different. I think trip hop is faster most times, and I think trip hop leans a lot on the amen break. And I think that there's a lot of trippy triplets of beats and stuff like that. It's definitely not the same. I think to know the do you think Dilla sounds like trip hop? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? It's a more of a soulful groove.
Yeah.
So really, Modbap is kind of like somebody said it the other day online. Someone said, I didn't know that there was a gap between hip hop and Euro rap. Well, there is. I can get deep on that, but I won't. Um,
Yeah.
then somebody chimed in and said, "Yo, Modbap is dope. Imagine if Dilla had picked up a Buchla rather than a Moog synth." And he said, what Modbap guys are doing is taking Eurorack and that Buchla sort of way of doing things and taking it to the next levels because there's a groove and there's a human feel to the drums, and it's all about the swing and it's all about the feel and the groove. You almost think about, like, if you think about soul music and sort of people like Premier, Pete Rock, and Jay Dilla, the grooves and the swing that's like the essence of boom bap music, we keep
Right.
it in that pocket. And that music lives somewhere in the 80 BPMs and 90 BPMs. It unless you're doing the running man, it is never over 100 BPMs. You know what I mean? And so it's about the bounce. It's about that head
Yep.
nod. It's about the cool, the swag, the swing, the fill. There's something about that unquantized groove and human
Right.
feel, and being able to kind of sync up all of those and wrangle all of those frequencies from modular and synthesis to fold them into those heavy bass lines and those big drums and that groove. Trip hop ain't that. You know
No,
what I'm
I know.
saying?
Thank you for defining. I only wanted you to, I wanted to hear the definition and have it stated on the show because, I mean, I know what Modbap is, but
Mhm.
I've you see on IG, like, oh, is it like it's like trip
Yeah,
hop?
yeah.
Is
I've
that?
seen
And
it
like,
too.
I don't think it's like trip hop, but I'm glad you like kind of laid that definition down. I appreciate that. There was a question in the chat, and I kind of want to circle back. I think I saw it pop up. Yes. Frey, will your next module make sound, move sound, or shape sound?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Answer is yes.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
All of
and
them.
yes.
So the plan is my next modules. I'm not going to talk about exactly what the next one is, but I have a whole system planned. I have a whole product line already planned. I have mock-ups and everything, and you know what I mean. Like, yeah, it's going to be a lot of heat coming. You know what I mean? So yeah, Frey is dope the way she tied that in. So with Modbap Modular, if you go there, not only, there's a lot of information there about everything and about Performer especially, but then there's the user manual that SynthDog did for Performer. But then SynthDog and I linked up and created an ebook called Make Shape Move. It's a beginner's guide to modular synthesis, because I already know that with me doing Eurorack modules and doing it from a beat maker's perspective, there's going to be a lot of people that might be getting into modular for the first time
Right.
on the heels of what Modbap Modular creates. I'm very conscious of that. And I've seen it over the weekend and in the last 5 days since the release of Performer, where people are like, this is the one that's going to make me get into modular. And that works well. Some people are like, yo, I don't want to get into modular. Do you got something I could put that in that I can just use with my current setup? You know what I mean? So it literally is like a bridge. And
It's like
so
the gateway.
yeah, it's like the gateway to all this stuff. And so with that, I knew that was happening or was going to happen, or at least I knew that there would be people that were curious or modular curious that make beats. And I wanted to have some information there that they could grab and learn about modular synthesis. So SynthDog and I created an ebook called Make Shape Move. So when Frey says, well, your next modules make sound, shape sound, or move sound, because that's the whole premise of it. Like when we had
when we went to that, when we taught that class, I'll never forget that. We were there, like, okay, how are we going to explain this to these kids here?
No doubt.
You and Voltage Controller and Aaron from FRAC, we were all standing there like, and you're like, well, and that's what it is. Make excuse me.
Yeah.
You say it.
Yeah, exactly. Make sound, move sound, shape sound. That's the thing. I had to tell the kids, like, hey, forget about all the intimidation that you see when you look at these wires and these knobs. With synthesis, all you're really going to do is make sound, shape sound, and move sound. Now let's talk about the tools that fall under those categories. So we did a ebook that encapsulates that idea. And so, yeah, that's the kind of stuff. And so Frey is actually going to start using that ebook to teach the kids that she teaches. And so, there may come a day when I expand upon that and kind of make it an actual hard copy book. So yeah, my next modules, there's going to be some modules that make sound. There's going to be some modules that shape sound, filters and envelopes. There's going to be some modules that move sound, modulation and different things like that. So I literally have mock-ups for all of that stuff.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. And it's all going to be from the perspective of beat maker, hip hop, but nonetheless, it's going to be valuable across the board, no matter what kind of music you make.
That's right. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Corry. Thank you so much, BboyTech, for sharing your story and talking about Modbap, being a pioneer of it. It's really important that, that we have this opportunity to educate people and tell them the history of it and how it started and what you're doing with it now. And I know you mentioned the documentary. I can't wait. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because it's happening.
Yeah.
Shiro is prolific. Ali the architect is prolific. I just want to add on to the culture, and I want to make sure people know that this is a movement and we move together, and we are brothers and we're sisters, and we are moving together. This is a moment when we're making stuff for the culture of hip hop. And although, there's no exclusion anywhere, but this idea of diversity in music tech, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to be able to say that these are ideas that have always been present for me, and where I didn't hear my voice when I would go to look for reviews. So that's part of when I started BboyTech. I never heard my voice when it came to the stuff that I wanted to hear. And even if I looked at stuff for technical or electronic music, it was always techno music. And then it was no hip hop representation on that. So it was either people of color, devoid of people of color, or it was either hip hop, ain't no damn hip hop. But I know we spending the money though. You know what I mean?
That's why I got into this.
So I've always just wanted our voices to be heard.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying, Trovarsi? Like, our voices, yours and Shiro's and Ali's and mine's and Aaron's, and our voices need to be heard, and St. Joe and stuff. You know what I mean? And so that's why we do what we do, and that's why I do what I do. And no matter what side of the fence I do it on, or what, whether I'm making modules or making beats or releasing compilations or doing beat people stuff, it's always going to be with the idea of representation and making sure we have a voice at that table.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, BboyTech. And thank you. Thank you, everyone who's been tuning in and hanging out with us and Faders Up. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe. I'd love to keep making these shows for you all, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you, BboyTech, for coming on the show and sharing your story. I just want to check, is there any last minute questions anybody wants to drop in the chat before we call it a wrap for the evening? Just want to give a shout out to those who have been tuning in. Thank you so much. I see a lot of my regulars in there, Lex and Shiro and Wes, and I don't know if I can name all of you. Space
Water deep in the chat.
Yeah, like all of you. Why not all of you? Like Cruda. Thank you, OG, Digi OG, all of you. But no, seriously, thank you all so much for supporting the show. I really appreciate it. There will be another Faders Up on November 19th. We will have Sarah Longfield on. That's going to be pretty dope. And yeah, like, thank you for all your support. And thank you, Corry, seriously, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, sis.
Thank you. All right. And that's it, folks. Thank you and have a good night.
Peace, y'all.